So just looking at the call, I think I know most of you, have met most of you, but I'm Graham Thomas, for those of you that may not know me, Deputy Director here at tnAchieves, and appreciate everyone being on today. Certainly would love for this to be as much of a conversation as possible. I've got some data here that we're going to walk through. We're going to kind of start with a zoom out of our statewide data, and then we will kind of zoom in to Maury County specifically. But that being said, if you have questions as we're going through this, comments, feedback, please let me know. And like I said, we've got a pretty strong Columbia State presence today. So we've got some experts on the call that can probably help with specific regional kind of questions, and certainly with the college questions. We launched Tennessee Promise in 2015, and one of our key components of that was written into the legislation was that every county mayor or county executive appointed what we call a local advisory council. So a small group of individuals to really do a few things. First, in those early days, was to help us navigate the community, find the active groups of people, really to support our mentoring program. I grew up next door in Williamson County, had been to Maury County a million times. So we weren't totally flying blind there, but in some of our counties we were. We'd never been there before, and we certainly didn't know the right people to reach out to support Tennessee Promise and tnAchieves. The second thing it was designed to do was provide an additional layer of accountability for our organization. So a group of individuals that we could come back, present our data, the good, the bad, the progress we're making, the challenges that we're seeing. And we want to get your feedback. We figured this year the best way to do that was virtually. A couple of years ago, Chrissy and I hit the road and visited all 90 counties. We figured, as we're still kind of navigating our current climate, that this was the best way. And so we invited everyone, mentors, our business supporters. If you've supported tnAchieves in any way, shape, or form, we just went ahead and kind of threw that out there. So really appreciative that you're here today. And with that, we can kind of dive in here. And again, ask questions as we're going, save them for the end, whatever you're comfortable with. So just a real quick reminder about who we are. We are the 501c3 nonprofit that operates Tennessee Promise in 90 of the state's 95 counties. Since we launched in 2008, we have worked with more than 440,000 students and 71,000 volunteers, working annually with over 600 high schools and 67 post-secondary institutions across the state of Tennessee. This next slide are what we call the core components of tnAchieves, the first three of which have been with us really since this was an idea on the whiteboard in Knox County in Mayor Ragsdale's office. So a last dollar scholarship that is now paid for by the state via Tennessee Promise that provides students the opportunity to attend a community or technical college tuition free, as well as 27 four-year universities. Each student in the 90 counties where we work is paired with a volunteer mentor that provides regular guidance during the college going process. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in a few minutes. And then our students get back 8 hours of community service every semester that they receive the scholarship. That was really important to us when we started. The scholarship piece was privately funded back in those days. We still had the volunteer mentors ensuring students were successful. And so we wanted to make sure that our students continue that tradition of giving back. So that's been with us. All three of those components have been with us since the beginning. Since then, we have launched a few additional components that we think are really important. First of which is our summer programming. So we operate a summer bridge program at all 13 community colleges, actually at 15 sites this year. For a couple of our colleges with larger service areas, we offer 2. Really exciting news out of our Summer Bridge program this year. So Summer Bridge is designed for students that are not testing into college level coursework in at least one subject, math, reading, and English. Some students require all 3. They come for 3 weeks. They do an hour of math, reading, and English every day. And then they take the post test. Really exciting news this year, 89% success rate in that program. So 89% of the students either tested into college level coursework or at a very minimum improved their test scores. So really promising data there, especially in a program where we know it was a strange year for seniors in school, out of school, online, in person, and we felt like we really could make up some of that potential learning loss. Another program that we are really excited about is called Summer Institute. We offer this program in the urban core in Memphis. We had 29 students participate in that program this year, and it is actually a credit-bearing course. Instead of a 3-week bridge program, it is 6 weeks. Instead of going from roughly 9 to noon, it goes from about 8 to 3 every day. Students complete all 9 hours of their learning support. So students that participate in this program require all 3 of those courses. And then with the co-requisite model that TBR has implemented, they actually can earn up to 9 hours of college credit. The really exciting news about this program this year is that all 29 students that participated completed all 9 hours of their learning support and earned all 9 hours of college credit. So we had a 100% success rate in that program this year, operating in inner city Memphis. So really exciting there. We hope to start to grow that program outside of Shelby County and into some other communities across the state. And then finally, one of our newer parts of the program is our complete coaching model. So our students that are most at risk are paired with a full-time staff member that are coaching them through college. Kind of where the mentor's work ends, the complete coach begins. They are reaching out and working with our low-income students. So what we have identified over the first 7 years of Tennessee Promise is, even though we've made college tuition free, our low-income students in Tennessee still are not going at rates as high as their peers. And when they go, they don't graduate at rates as high as their peers. So our coaches are reaching out, building relationships with them, and coaching them through college. Early success indicators on this are really high. We've actually taken our lowest performing group of students, and they are now outpacing our general population in terms of fall-to-fall retention. No graduation rate yet. We're not quite far enough into that program, but it's showing a lot of promise. This next slide continues to show some of our reach. So I mentioned 90 counties across the state, 74 of which are considered rural, 35 are at risk or distressed. Both of those designations come from the Department of Economic and Community Development, working in more than 600 high schools. That includes all of our public, private, and homeschool cooperatives in those 90 counties, working with 67 colleges. And then you see a breakdown of where it is that our students are attending. The community college option continues to be the most popular, with a pretty even split between the 4-year university route or the TCAT. So 79% at the community college and 11 at TCAT and 10 at the 4-year university. A little bit more about the scope of our work, working with more than 60,000 high school applicants each year. When you couple that with our college students, we're working with more than 90,000 students annually. 89% of all high school seniors in Tennessee go through the Tennessee Achieves program. When you couple that with the AIRS Foundation and the work they're doing in the other 5 counties, well over 90% of high school seniors are applying for Tennessee Promise every year, but 89% of seniors across Tennessee come through the Tennessee Achieves program. 78% of all first-time freshmen at the community colleges are coming through Tennessee Achieves. And a number that we're really proud of, 86% of all Tennessee community college graduates are enrolled in the Tennessee Achieves program. So the scope that we're working at is really large. For those of us that have been with the program since we were working with 490 students in Knoxville, I think we still pinch ourselves every day that we're working at this scope, but continue to wake up every day extremely excited about this opportunity to move the needle and provide opportunities for students. This next line shows some demographic information about our students. 56% of them are eligible for federal financial aid, which is the federal Pell Grant, which means they're coming from low-income households. 40% of which self-report as first-generation college students. This number is a little tricky. It is self-reported on the FAFSA. One, I don't know that there's a really good definition of what a first-generation college student is. Two, it seems to me to skew a little bit low when you're looking at probably 40 to 44% of adults in Tennessee having a post-secondary credential. The fact that only 40% of this next generation is reporting as first gen is probably a little low. It's probably a little bit higher than that, but that's the best data that we have to run with at this time. We recently pulled some data to see what is it that our students are majoring in. We were really excited to see that 51% of them are majoring in either a health science or a STEM related field. Those are our most in-demand fields in Tennessee, which means our students are setting themselves up to get a credential or where they will find meaningful employment. Really excited to see that. And then at the bottom, you can see the general cost of the program, $32 million annually in scholarship costs. That comes out to about $1,100 per student. And then we operate on a $2.5 million budget, vast majority of which is privately funded. Let's take a look at our local Maury County data here. The first thing that we see is the FAFSA filing rate, Maury County outpacing the state by just a little bit. Our FAFSA number went down this past year. We were at 90% 2 years ago. We were at 86% this year. I think that that is a direct correlation of a lot of our students across Tennessee not being physically in a high school, specifically in Memphis and Nashville, where students were not in school during the FAFSA season. Counselors just aren't able to go pull those students out of class, help them file the FAFSA. They do such amazing work across the state, identifying these students and helping them complete the FAFSA, and they just weren't able to do so this year. So we saw a small little dip. 86 is still good. We're going to keep working to make sure we get back up towards that 90 range. The community service number is another number that we're really proud of. Almost 3.4 million hours of community service completed since we launched the program. Our board chairman, Randy Boyd, says that makes us the largest community service organization in the state. We don't know if that is true. No one has yet to raise their hand and say it's not. So we're going to run with it until someone tells us otherwise, but you can see almost 45,000 hours there completed in Maury County. So Dr. Smith, hopefully you're seeing some of that work done on campus. Hopefully our local school system is seeing some of that. I know Jan McKill was registered for this call. Hopefully her organization is seeing some of that. I don't know if she's hopped on since we started, but hopefully our chambers and our nonprofits locally are seeing some of the good work being completed by Tennessee Promise students in Maury County. Our next slide is probably our most important slide. How are our students in Maury County doing compared with our students across the state? The application and retention data that you see here is from the class of 2019. The 3-year graduation rate is from the class of 17. 786 students applying for the scholarship, almost 300 of which enrolled, with a first-year retention rate coming in a couple of ticks higher than the state average. And then our 3-year graduation rate, just a point or two off of the state average, still really strong numbers for a county as large as Maury. Everything seems to be on par here. Certainly going to keep digging into that graduation number for students all across the state, but everything here looks pretty good. Some more outcomes. These are on a statewide scale now. So you can see our first year retention, Tennessee Promise students at an eligible Tennessee Promise institution. So they are receiving support, 67% that start their freshman year, come back for their sophomore year, compared to 53% of the first-time full-time freshmen at community colleges across Tennessee. And then the 74% number are Tennessee Achieve students that enroll anywhere. So those are students that are going to MTSU, TSU, UT, Austin P, wherever it may be, that aren't necessarily receiving scholarship dollars from Tennessee Promise, but they were paired with a mentor. We helped them with their FAFSA. We've been communicating with them for several months. So just to see kind of where they fall in this process. And then you see our 6-year graduation rate. 51% of Tennessee Achieve students that started at a community college have graduated 6 years later versus 35% of the general population. There are two numbers in this 51%. These are your students that go to Columbia State, earn their associate's degree, go out into the workforce, or even transfer. These are also the students that go to Columbia State for a year, get their core classes out of the way, and then transfer on without ever receiving their associate's degree. This is a number that we're proud of. We're making a lot of progress here. When we started, Knox Achieves, the 3-year graduation rate at the community college was, I think, 14%. It's now up to 25 at the community colleges, 31 with Tennessee Achieves. So we're moving in the right direction, but still got a lot of work to do. And here's some of the things that we're doing to impact these student outcomes. I talked about our summer programs earlier and their success rate. The other really exciting part for students that participate in the summer programs is they're more successful once they begin college. Their first year retention increases by 34% if you participate in the Tennessee Achieve summer program. Our students that are in that complete coaching model increase their retention rate by 23%. And then a program that we're really excited about that is one of the newest parts of our program, it's called Knox Promise. This is funded by a private donation, by a private donor in Knoxville that allows us to do a couple of things here. First, every single student that graduates from a Knox County high school that goes to college with Tennessee Promise gets a coach. Regardless of income, they are paired with a coach that is helping them through their college careers. The second thing we're able to do with these students is offer what we call completion grant funding, what may be more familiar to you as like emergency grant funding, where we can help students pay for books. We help them pay for their transportation costs with gas cards, or we found a way they can Uber basically from their house to campus and nowhere else, and we pay for that. We're able to help food insecure students with their grocery bills. We have helped some students with utility bills. We paid for some transitional housing for homeless students. This was actually, so far through the pandemic, the vast majority of these students go to Pellissippi State. Pellissippi State's highest retaining population through the pandemic so far. So this shows a lot of promise. This is something that we are working with our state legislature to take across the state. We have received a pilot program. It's 4 years. It's $1 million, $250,000 a year to take completion grant funding across the state. Your eligible students received an email from us on Monday notifying them if they are eligible. It is a little bit watered down from Knox Promise. The income cap is a little bit lower simply because we just don't quite have enough money to raise it as high as we do in Knoxville. And not all the students are getting a coach. But I think if we can show some retention and graduation improvements with this pilot program, this is something that we're going to work with the legislature to expand and take statewide. Senator Johnson was on our call yesterday. We're having conversations. The legislature has been extremely supportive of our program, and we're really grateful for that. Everything in this presentation so far has been really positive, and then this slide pops up, and I think every time that it shows up, I've done several of these now. It's my third one today. It's kind of a gut punch. You can see the first year of Tennessee Promise, which that 2015, we increased the state's college going rate by 4.6%. Maury County's college going rate that first year increased almost 11%. It was one of the highest jumps in the state, specifically for a county the size of Maury. There were some small counties, like I think Jackson or Trousdale or Macon, one of those counties on the upper Cumberland there had like a 22% increase, but they're graduating a pretty small group of students, so just a few students can move their number. Maury saw a huge gain that first year. Unfortunately, what we're seeing across the state here is we peaked, kind of plateaued, COVID hit, and we're going backwards. About 5 points backwards statewide. Unfortunately, it's even more pronounced locally, a decrease of 10% in the college going rate. Dr. Smith, you were asking as we were kind of chatting before this started what we're seeing statewide. Unfortunately, it's looking like this 57% or so number will hold pretty steady this year. That's just based on kind of a snapshot of what enrollment looks like very, very early in the process. So it could move a few points. We don't really have a great grasp on it yet, but seems to be trending that we're going to stay in that kind of high mid 50s range. And we would certainly want to dig in on that. So the next is, what can we do to address this college going rate crisis that we're seeing in Tennessee and honestly across the country due to COVID? One of the most important things for us is that specifically on the college going end is that we're finding the mentors that we need in all these counties to support these students. 60,000 plus students, there are 30 of us on staff. We need that local support system. So 3 roles of the mentor. 1, you serve as that task manager, making sure that students are submitting their admissions documents, their financial aid documents, that they're making progress towards college while remaining eligible for Tennessee Promise. Second thing we say is that the mentors are that trusted family resource, the person that they can reach out to when they don't know what the next step is, when they get a letter from financial aid and they don't know what it means. They've got a person they can call, email, or text and help them overcome whatever that barrier might be. And then finally, what I've been arguing for the last 13 years is the most important role as we continue to navigate fairly uncertain times is the encouragement piece. just that, hey, you can do this. And yes, there are challenges, and there's challenges we've never seen before. And for any student that goes to college, it gets hard sometimes, right? Like, I was a terrible math student. I struggled in math. Other students struggle writing papers. We have students that are juggling full-time work and full-time school, and it just gets challenging, and that's okay. But that we're going to go on this journey together. Mentoring in 2022 is going to look different than it looks this year, which has looked significantly different than it looked in the previous 12 years. This year, if you mentored with us, you know that we invested in a new online platform that allows you to do virtual meetings with students. Looks a lot like this, what we're doing right now. Still call, still email, still text. It also provides a layer of tracking students that we've never had before. You got to see in real time when students submitted their community service hours, when they applied to college, when they enrolled full time. You were getting that information when we were getting it. So you could really reach out to them proactively where they are in the process. That's going to stay with us in 2022, but we surveyed our current mentors, and 2/3 of our current mentors told us they want an in-person option for next year. One of the things that we would like to do, and this is something that we'll certainly be talking to the team at Columbia State about, is host what we're calling open houses on the college campuses. Our idea is that we would block off 3 or 4 hours where you can come, meet with your students. There will be a Tennessee Achieves staff person there to answer questions. No large presentation. If you mentored with us previously, you remember those large high school meetings that were crowded, standing room only, kind of hot. We're doing away with those. But we think this would be a really good opportunity for mentors to come, meet with students, have a staff person there to support them, but also maybe college staff there to support them, computers maybe where they can apply, or where we can check their admissions files and see what they're missing, try to make it as much of a one-stop shop as we can. And then we're also going to encourage mentors to meet with their students on their own, which is not something we've ever done before, but we know it happens. Randy takes his students to pizza every year. We had a mentor this summer who actually ran her own summer bridge program in her front yard. She put a table out underneath a shade tree in her front yard. A student came and she basically tutored this student to get her ready for the placement test. So we know those things are happening. We're going to encourage that at a level we haven't before, all while trying to maintain about that 1 hour a month time commitment. We need about 120 people in Maury County. If you've mentored with us before, you can go online and renew your application, or you can just respond to any of our emails and we can get you in the system. New mentors, go on and complete a new application. We are going to have all of our trainings virtual this year, and we'll have those ready here pretty soon. Maury County is one of those counties that always hits its goal, but certainly want to make sure that we continue to do so to support students as we're continuing to figure out what exactly life in college and school looks like in 2021 and into 2022. Again, I'm not sure if Janice hopped on here yet. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here in a minute, but she's been one of our big drivers. Get a lot of mentors from Columbia State, and certainly want to continue to support students in that way. A few other things that you can do to help us out. Obviously, sign up to be a mentor, but also help us get this opportunity out across your community. So if there are active civic clubs, or if we can get in touch with the chamber, or anywhere where there are active groups, we also have content we can send you that you can plug into a newsletter, or content that you can just email out across your personal networks. We'll write it all up for you, send it over to you. If you have those opportunities, you can email mentors@tnAchieves.org. And we are happy to come and tell the story. We can do this very specific Maury County presentation. We can do a statewide presentation, anything we can do to share this opportunity. And then finally, the application for students is open. As you saw earlier, more than 90% of students across Tennessee are applying for Tennessee Promise. But if you know a senior or a family with a senior, never hurts to provide that last final nudge. That is all of the presentation that I have for you today. Here's my contact information. If you ever have questions, comments, or feedback, you can always reach out directly to me. What I'm going to do now is stop sharing my screen, go back where I can see everybody, and happy to answer any questions you have or take any comments or feedback that you might have for us.
Graham, I did have a question. I may have misunderstood. The open houses that you're thinking about doing on the campuses, will that replace the mandatory meeting? Did I miss that, or is it?
Our goal for this year is to actually get back in the high schools with just our staff and the seniors, and that will become the mandatory meeting. The students will actually sign in using Connect, so we can get them all loaded in there. So when you start mentoring your students next year, they'll already be in the platform. And then these open houses will be optional. We are going to be very careful about how we present those to students to try to drive them there. But we also want to make sure the mentor is going to be there if they come. So that'll be something that the mentors and students will work on. So we'll not replace the mandatory meeting, but we'll be an additional layer there.
Okay, thank you.
Great question, Sissy. Yeah, no problem. Anybody else? Awesome. Well, again, we appreciate you being here today. We've said this for years that our program really is only as successful as the communities that we serve allow us to be. We have had really great support from Maury County since the beginning of this. And so we can't thank you enough for supporting our program for the last 7 years, for being here today. And if there's ever anything that we can do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. Looking forward to 7th cohort started this week and getting the 8th cohort in the hopper now. So excited for year 8 and appreciate everything that you do for us. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Graham. You have a great day as well.
Thanks, Dr. Smith. You too.